In a landmark move for justice and transparency, the National Register for Sex Offenders will soon be open to the public by the end of this month. That's tomorrow. This marks a major victory for advocacy groups who have long fought for greater access to information that could help protect vulnerable individuals. For further clarity on this, let's now welcome Soul City Institute CEO Phinah Kodisang. Phinah, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time on this very important matter. So as the Soul City Institute, let's get your views about this move.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you and the listeners. As Soul City, we are one of those organizations that have been pushing for this list to be made public. As you will know, this list existed for almost 20 years, right? But it was only listing those who, have offended children and vulnerable individuals. In that category would be persons with disability and other vulnerable groups. But we have then, in the last 3 years, with the promulgation of the amendments that the president made, had included the fact that this list should include all sexual offenses without necessarily saying for the vulnerable groups, and also should be made public because before it was not made public. So we do support this for reasons, that we've been stating publicly, which is to make sure that those who are victims or survivors actually do know who the perpetrators are, because we live with these people without knowing that, in fact, they are offenders. And so the list will help organizations as they look, or companies as they look to recruit new people, they would then know, these people's previous offenses. And so we understand the intricacies of how it should be balanced, because as people would argue, it doesn't solve the problem. But my argument and Soul City's argument is that it contributes to the solutions.
Phinah, we actually tackled the legal ramifications of those that will now find themselves published on this list as of tomorrow, and mostly due to concerns that this list, we're not sure about the process of publishing, how it was conducted, and what considerations were actually made. For example, there's still the issue of wrongly accused and convicted individuals. What happens to their jobs? Do employers now have to go also on this list before hiring? So quite a lot of outstanding clarity, I suppose, that the public is still in need of.
True. And like with any system, all our legal systems are flawed in many ways. Yes. You do have people who are in prison right now having to serve a sentence for some things they have not done. So the list is not immune to the many challenges that we already have in our country, right? And the imperfect systems that we have. And so hence we are saying there must be a balancing act of making sure that the process is clear, but also should you find yourself wrongly on the list, what is the process to remove your name? And so we understand that it's going to take a lot to get to a point where we can say it is working perfectly. And it has not even been working perfectly for the last 20 years, but it is a necessary contribution, as I indicated, to us trying to find solutions to the very complex problem that we have in this country of sexual gender-based violence.
Absolutely, Phinah. The minister there does ensure compliance. She says to ensure compliance with the POPIA Act. She explains that the list will actually include the offenders' full names and the provinces where they actually reside. Granted, Phinah, this is a great initiative, right, towards efforts, current efforts in the country in the fight against GBV and sexual offences. Just a while ago, we understand, some political parties like BOSA have even threatened mass public action should the minister not actually release the list, because I'm sure you saw there was a lot of counter pressure for her to actually not publicize. But in your view, will this publication then assist in rape and GBV cases to subside? The understanding is that offenders actually reoffend, and also that not all offenders are actually reported and convicted, Phinah, which is one of the biggest outstanding issues pertaining to this list.
Yeah, we are a country that is in the process really of, finding solutions, and we cannot throw out anything at this point and say it will not work. I think we need to give it a chance. We believe strongly that it might deter those who have offended or who are likely to offend, because if you know that your name will be published out there, you'll be on the list, that everyone gets access to, it might deter. So we don't know. It has not been tested and proven. So we are going to see now, once it is published, what we see and what we get from it. So I think it's premature for us to say it will not work.
Absolutely. Phinah, thank you so much for your input this afternoon. We're going to leave it there. There is Ms. Phinah Kodisang there of the Soul City Institute. She's the CEO there as the country awaits the publication of the list of sexual and GBV offenders by the Justice Department.